Hello and welcome, folks. It is Corpheus, and today's video I'm going to be walking through an Unreal Engine tutorial, just teaching you how to build a Unreal Engine standalone project that you can use for making height maps out of static meshes. So we have got our just blank Unreal Engine project started here. So we won't be using any of this zone. We'll be creating a new level that we'll be doing this in. But for now, there's a few things that we can get out of the way while we still have the sun shining to give us some light. So we are going to start by creating a new material. So I'll just make a folder called material. And in here, we'll right click, create a material. And we'll just do m_height map. And we will double click on this to get it open. So we are going to start here by putting an absolute world position. So we'll just type in world position. And this will give us our absolute world position node. The absolute world position node in Unreal Engine 5 outputs the absolute world space coordinates, so the X, Y, and Z of a single pixel on a mesh's surface. So this allows materials to create effects based on an object's position in the world, such as, distance-based blending or world-aligned textures, things like that. So from this, really what we want to capture is the z-axis. But in order to do that, we need to plug this into a split components node. So the split components node in Unreal Engine 5 takes a vector input, like a vector 3 or a vector 4, and separates it into its individual components. So that is what this breakdown on the right side of the node is doing. And it's going to allow us to manipulate or use each component independently in a material. So the reason we're using this is because we are getting an input from the absolute world position of X, Y, and Z, and we only want to capture the Z-axis. So again, we're going to drag out of the B node, and we're going to plug this into a remap value range node. And for this result, we will plug this into the emissive color. Now, don't go anywhere because we're not done. We are also going to make 4 constant nodes. And these constant nodes, we're going to be plugging into the remap value range. So you can make these constant nodes just by clicking and holding down 1 and then left clicking on your mouse. So for the first one here that we will be plugging into input low, we'll set this at -30. And for our second one here, going into input high, we'll turn this into 30. And I'm going to comment this out here because this is something that you can edit. You'll have to play with these values to get it to work with your static mesh. So these 2 nodes you can edit into the input low and the input high. Now these 2 nodes we do not want to edit. And the reason for that is because these 2 nodes is what we are using to basically tell the emissive color at lower points in a static mesh. We want it to be a little bit darker, and at higher points we want it to be a little bit brighter. So for the target low, we're going to keep this value at 0. And for the target high, we're going to change this to 1. And we'll plug this in up here. And that is our material. So now that our material is done, we're going to add a scene capture 2D to our scene and place it above our level. So I'm going to hit apply and save. and we will close out of the material. So now that we have our static mesh in the world here, I'm going to just drag it out so that you can see kind of what we are working with here. So this is a zone that I have exported from another video game called Final Fantasy XI, and we're going to be using this as the base to build out our height map. One recommendation that I would have is if you do have experience in Blender and you do export a zone from another game or whatever it is that you're pulling out, I would recommend going into Blender and just getting rid of things like trees and bushes and whatever these things are, so that you can just have one flat zone. But all the same, this will still work for what we are doing here. So we are going to add a scene capture 2D to our scene. And now that we have a scene capture 2D, we're just going to rotate this so that the camera is facing down. And with that facing down, I'm going to grab my mesh and I'm going to put its location in the world to 0, 0, and 0. And with the camera, I'm also going to set its X and Y to 0 and to 0. And we'll leave it still a little bit high up. So here it is right over here. Just run over to it. So its position is over the same relative central position of the map that we are using. So with the scene capture 2D selected, get in a little bit closer to this, we are going to change the projection type to orthographic, and we'll increase the orthographic width to, we'll say 40,000 for now. This is something that for your project you will also need to adjust based on the relative size of the mesh that you are trying to work with. So now that we have our scene capture in, we have our material done, and we have our static mesh here, the next thing that I'm going to do is in our content drawer, I'm going to right click and I'm going to type in render target. And we want to select this option right here. And we'll just call this RT for render target underscore Heightmap capture. So now we have our Heightmap capture. So what we need to do now under the scene capture 2D, so our camera again, the texture target, we want to select this to the render target that we just made. So RT underscore Heightmap capture. And now, not sure how well you can actually see this in the video, but down in the bottom right, we can see that it is capturing a portion of our zone. So because it is only capturing a small portion of the zone, what I'm going to do is its location right now is set at 66,000. So let's bump that up to 150,000. So even with our camera up at 150,000, I'm still not quite capturing this entire zone. So I'm going to play around with the ortho width until I find that the entire zone is captured in our render target frame. So for my particular case, I just increased the ortho width on the scene capture 2D to about 180,000. And as you can see for the render target here, it looks like that's doing pretty good. So the next thing that we're going to do is we are going to apply our material to the static mesh once again. And now if I go down a little bit closer on this mesh, see that there's some areas that this is not quite lighting up. So the reason for that is because these areas are lower on our map. And so you can tell as we start getting up a little bit higher in elevation, we do see some color changes. And that is our emissive material at work. So the next thing that I'm going to do is delete the directional light, the exponential height fog, sky atmosphere, skylight, Skysphere, and volumetric cloud, because we really don't need any of those for what we're doing here. And this really gives a better perspective on what it is that we're trying to do. For height maps, you need to make sure that your background is black. If it is blue, then you still need to delete some lighting components for the zone that you're in, or the level rather. So now that we have our material applied to our mesh, we have our scene capture 2D, and we have our render target. What we're going to do is we are going to right click on the render target. We're going to select Asset Actions, and we're going to hit Export. And when you export this, just select the folder that you want to export it to. It's going to export as a .exr file. And I will show you the next step once you get the EXR file. So my personal recommendation for this is convertio.com. If you just do a Google search for Convertio EXR to PNG, this should pull up for you. I've used Convertio a lot, and I haven't gotten any viruses or anything weird off of it, so we always like that. But we'll just drop that EXR file that we just exported from Unreal Engine. We'll hit Convert and download. Now we have our Heightmap PNG. And back in Unreal, I'm just going to create a new level, and we'll just do basic. Save that first map that we were working on as Heightmap. And now in our new basic world, I'm going to go to the landscape tool in the top left, and I'm going to click Import from File. I will throw this in here as well. If when you import your mesh, if it comes out looking something like this, well, that doesn't look right, then my recommendation would be to go back into your material, and where we had set this at -30 and 30 before, just play around with these values a little bit. Maybe do something like -5 and 5, and then hit apply and save. And then back in our height map, see that material looks a little bit different on here. So we'll go ahead and export this again. And once you've gone through and you've actually played around with those values enough, you'll start to get a feel for what it is that you're looking for. Now, I can tell using the landscape tool that this is probably not going to turn out exactly the way that I want it to. So once again, you can just kind of play around with these values over here until it seems like you've got some less harsh edges. And yeah, maybe this is kind of something along the lines of what we're looking for. So from here, I'll just hit import. And there we go. It's a basic outline of the zone that we were just working on. So from here, making the actual area, we can go through and start smoothing things out and turn our zone into something that's going to be actually reminiscent of a game that we can play from whatever your favorite game is. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this tutorial. If you're stuck on something, leave a comment. I love replying to comments and helping people out. Drop a like, and don't forget to subscribe if you guys enjoyed the video. And I will see you in the next one.